What if I told you that one of the WNBA's newest faces went from fixing fences on a sheep farm in rural Australia to draining threes under the bright lights of Indiana Fever's roaring home crowd? This isn't just another story about a promising young player. This is a story about resilience, about sacrifice, and about a woman who refused to let the limits of her tiny hometown define her destiny. Her name? Chloe Bibby. And if you think you know her story, think again, because today we're about to peel back the curtain on the farm girl turned international star whose rise to the WNBA is as unlikely as it is inspiring. From long bus rides across Australia to heartbreaking roster cuts to an MVP season overseas that forced the WNBA to finally take notice, Chloe Bibby's journey proves that sometimes the toughest players are forged far away from the spotlight. Stick around, because this is Chloe Bibby like you've never seen her before. In this video, we're diving deep into Bibby's entire story. Her early life growing up on a massive sheep farm in Victoria, Australia. The brutal sacrifices her family made just so she could chase tougher competition. Her college years in the United States, from Mississippi State's national championship run to becoming a Big Ten star at Maryland. Her roller coaster pro career, bouncing between continents, dominating Europe, and finally cracking the WNBA with the Golden State Valkyries and Indiana Fever. And yes, we'll even pull back the curtain on her personal life, net worth, and lifestyle off the court. By the end, you'll understand not just the player Chloe Bibby is, but the person behind the jersey. But before we get rolling, I want to hear from you. Do you think Chloe Bibby has what it takes to stick long-term in the WNBA, or is she destined to be more of an international star than a league mainstay? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And while you're there, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with another Hoops fan, and of course subscribe to Her Hoops for more deep dive stories on the women changing the game. To understand Chloe Bibby, you have to picture where she came from. Not a big city, not some prep school basketball factory. No, Chloe was born on June 15, 1998 in Horsham, Victoria, but she grew up in a farming town so small, most Australians have never even heard of it. Warracknabeal. Population? About 2,400. That's not even enough to fill the lower bowl of a WNBA arena. Her parents, Leanne and Adrian Bibby, raised Chloe and her two siblings, Josh and Ella, on a sprawling 1,200-acre cattle and sheep farm. Days weren't spent in gyms or fancy training centers. They were spent fixing fences, tending animals, and learning the value of hard work before sunrise. And yet, even in that setting, Chloe stood out. By age 14, she was already 6 feet tall, towering over classmates. She played netball at first, a sport her mom loved. But by 5th grade, she made a switch. Basketball wasn't just an interest, it quickly became an obsession. The problem? Warracknabeal didn't exactly have elite training facilities, so the Bibby family had a choice: let Chloe's potential go untapped or sacrifice everything to get her to the next level. And sacrifice they did. Her parents drove hundreds of miles every week just so she could compete in better leagues around Melbourne. Chloe joined a small-town club called the Horsham Hornets, worked with a private coach, and played games that required road trips longer than some WNBA flights. Imagine being a teenager, already grinding through homework, then adding all-night drives just to hoop against better competition. That's what Chloe's life looked like. And when she was just 15 years old, she made a decision that would change everything. She convinced her parents to let her move away from the farm, enrolling at Rowville Secondary College in Melbourne. She was still just a kid, but now living in the city, boarding at school, and dedicating herself to basketball full-time. For Chloe, there was no turning back. From farm life to city lights, this was just the beginning, because Chloe's teenage years would fast-track her into elite competition, championships, and eventually a ticket to the United States. Here's the thing about Chloe Bibby's story. It's not a straight line of success. Yes, she had talent. Yes, she was tall and athletic, but the reality? Nothing was handed to her. Growing up in rural Australia meant Chloe didn't have the same exposure as players in Sydney or Melbourne. Scouts weren't coming to Warracknabeal. Coaches weren't flocking to country gyms. If Chloe wanted a career in basketball, she had to chase it herself. And chase it she did. As a teenager, she joined the Dandenong Rangers in Australia's SEBAL, the Southeast Australian Basketball League, where she not only competed, but actually won back-to-back championships in 2015 and 2016. She was even named Youth Player of the Year in 2017. But even then, the path wasn't clear. For every headline about her scoring, there were whispers: she's good, but is she good enough for the next level? She's tall, but can she adapt in the US? Is she really built for the WNBA? That skepticism followed her across the ocean when she accepted a scholarship to Mississippi State University in 2017. Think about that for a 2nd. A farm girl from a town of 2,400 people suddenly finds herself in the SEC, playing for one of the top women's programs in America. Talk about culture shock. Her freshman year was historic. MSU reached the NCAA championship game, only to lose in heartbreaking fashion to Notre Dame. But Chloe wasn't the star. She was a role player, coming off the bench, learning, adapting. Over 3 years at Mississippi State, she played 88 games, scored 609 points, but never truly broke through as a household name. Then, disaster struck. The pandemic in 2020 not only cut the season short, but also led to the departure of legendary coach Vic Schaefer. Suddenly, Chloe was at a crossroads. Stay in Mississippi and risk fading into the background, or gamble on herself and transfer to a brand new program. She chose the gamble, and it paid off. Big. At the University of Maryland, Chloe exploded into a vocal leader and sharpshooting forward, averaging nearly 14.5 points and 7.3 rebounds per game as a senior. She racked up over 1,200 career points and earned all Big Ten honors. But here's the kicker. Even with all that, the WNBA didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. Mini hook. Chloe Bibby had the resume, the stats, and the leadership. But when it came time for the WNBA, she faced rejection, roster cuts, and a brutal reminder of just how hard it is to crack into the league. Here's what makes Chloe Bibby's story so gripping. The margin for error in women's basketball is tiny. The WNBA only has 12 teams. That's 144 roster spots total. Compare that to the NBA's 30 teams with over 500 players. Every single year, hundreds of talented college graduates and international stars fight for a handful of openings. Most never make it. So when Chloe declared for the WNBA in 2022, the odds were stacked against her. She had size, she had shooting, she had leadership. But here's the brutal truth. WNBA training camps cut talented players every single season. And that's exactly what happened to Chloe. She landed an invite to the Minnesota Lynx's 2022 camp. For a moment, it looked like the dream was real. But after just a few weeks, she was released. That kind of setback crushes a lot of players. Some give up, some fade into smaller overseas leagues. And for Chloe, it could have ended there. But here's why this matters. Chloe wasn't just fighting for a roster spot. She was fighting for her career identity. Was she going to be remembered as that Australian who almost made it? Or was she going to prove she belonged at the highest level? So instead of folding, she went back overseas. In Australia's NBL 1 South, she became an All-Star 5 selection in 2023 and 2024. In Poland, she absolutely dominated, dropping 20.9 points per game and winning league MVP. In the Euro Cup, she was even better, putting up 22 points and 7.7 rebounds per game. That dominance overseas wasn't just padding stats. But the WNBA is ruthless. After just 6 games, she was waived. 6 games. That could have been the end. And yet, somehow this is where Chloe's story gets even more dramatic. Because just when it looked like her WNBA dream was over for good, another door opened. Mini hook. July 2025. The Indiana Fever were desperate for depth. Chloe got the call. And what she did in her first 2 games with Indiana? It shocked everyone. July 25, 2025. The Indiana Fever were in desperate need of firepower off the bench. Injuries had stretched the roster thin, and they needed someone who could come in, space the floor, and contribute immediately. Enter Chloe Bibby. Signed to a 7-day contract, essentially basketball's version of a trial run. No promises, no guarantees, just 7 days to prove she belonged. And what happened in her very first game? Against the Chicago Sky, Chloe came off the bench like she had nothing to lose. In just 11 minutes, she scored 8 points, drilling 2 huge three-pointers that swung the momentum. Fans in Indiana, many of whom didn't even know her name before that night, suddenly sat up and paid attention. Then came Game 2. Against the Phoenix Mercury, she doubled down. Another pair of threes, Another double-digit scoring night. This time, 10 points in limited minutes. Efficiency, energy, exactly what Indiana had been missing. Think about the pressure here. Most rookies or international players get weeks, sometimes months, to adjust to the speed and physicality of the WNBA. Chloe Bibby had 2 games, and she delivered. The Fever didn't hesitate. That 7-day deal? They ripped it up and offered her a contract for the rest of the season. Coach Stephanie White praised her composure, saying Chloe looked like she already knew exactly where her shots would come from, like she belonged out there. For Chloe, this was more than just a couple of good games. This was her career on the line. If she fails, she's another name on a long list of international players who couldn't stick. But because she succeeded, she's now part of the conversation. This was the turning point. The moment Chloe Bibby stopped being an overseas scorer trying to break in and became a legitimate WNBA contributor. And yet, her journey doesn't stop here. Because if you zoom out, Chloe isn't just building a WNBA career, she's also carving her name into the history of Australian basketball. Chloe Bibby's rise in the WNBA didn't happen in isolation. Her success has always been tied to something bigger, representing Australia. Long before her Fever debut, Chloe wore the green and gold proudly. At just 16, she was already suiting up for Australia's junior teams, competing against the best young talent in the world. At the 2015 FIBA U19 World Cup, she averaged 11 points and 7 rebounds per game, a force in the paint and beyond the arc. And a year later, at the 2016 FIBA Oceania Championship, she helped Australia to a gold medal, scoring over 14 points a night. These weren't just empty numbers. They were proof that she could deliver on the biggest stage with the pressure of an entire country behind her. Fast forward to 2023. Chloe earned her call-up to the Opals senior squad for the FIBA Asia Cup in Sydney. This wasn't just another tournament. This was Australia defending home soil. And though she wasn't the star of the team, her role off the bench mattered. Hustle minutes, energy, a willingness to do the dirty work that doesn't always show up on stat sheets. Australia walked away with the bronze medal, and Chloe walked away with something far more valuable: validation. She could hold her own at the senior international level. She could contribute to one of the most decorated national teams in women's basketball history. And here's why that matters. Because the Opals aren't just a team, they're a pipeline of greatness. Lauren Jackson, Liz Cambage, Penny Taylor, Ezi Magbagor. When you're part of that roster, you're part of a legacy that stretches across decades. For Chloe, being in that mix elevates her profile. Every performance in Europe, every big shot in the WNBA now doubles as an audition, not just for her pro teams, but for her country. And make no mistake, Chloe has openly said she dreams of representing Australia at the Olympics one day. So when you look at her transformation, from a small-town farm girl in Warracknabeal to a WNBA player to a medal-winning Opal, it's clear this isn't just about basketball. It's about identity, pride, proving that no matter where she plays, Chloe Bibby carries Australia with her every step of the way. And speaking of identity, there's one more side of Chloe's story that fans can't get enough of. Not just the athlete, not just the scorer, but the person behind the jersey. And there you have it, the full story of Chloe Bibby, like you've never seen before. From farm life in rural Australia, to college stardom in the US, to international MVP honors, and now carving her path in the WNBA and with the Opals. Chloe's journey is the definition of resilience, hard work, and believing in yourself when the odds are stacked against you. She's more than just a shooter. She's more than just a role player. She's proof that with dedication and courage, you can turn humble beginnings into a global career. And the best part, at just 27 years old, Chloe's story is still being written. Whether it's with Indiana, back in Europe, or on the Olympic stage with Australia, one thing is clear: Chloe Bibby is only getting started. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Chloe's life and career, don't forget to like this video to support the channel. Comment below with your favorite Chloe Bibby moment or what surprised you most. share this video with fellow basketball fans, and subscribe for more in-depth stories on your favorite athletes. This has been another Her Hoops Style Breakdown. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.